Final programme of Cathedral Classics from Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral. Now we join Tom Fleming with a very good view of Edinburgh.
Welcome to the famous esplanade of Edinburgh Castle. You haven't seen it like this before. In broad daylight, the stand's empty. Over the years, 8 million people have sat here and watched upwards of 20,000 performers from all over the world marching up and down its sloping parade ground. In the early days of the Edinburgh Festival, there were small military displays of piping and dancing, but the Edinburgh tattoo, as we know it, was first held in 1950. Why tattoo? Well, in the 17th century, drums would sound the signal for soldiers to return to their barracks at the end of the day, and the innkeepers would turn off their ale taps with the cry, "Tap to." And the drums and trumpets and bugles sometimes would play the soldiers back to their billets, and the music itself became known as a tattoo. Well, there's plenty of good music here in 1989. And as at the very first tattoo, Scotland's own regiments are well represented. There are 3 fine regimental bands from across the border, and there are welcome guests from Australia and Canada in the 40th Edinburgh Military Tattoo. The opening fanfare, La Reine Marie Stuart, composed and conducted by Major Bob Garrity, Royal Artillery.
The pipes and drums.
Seven pipe bands marching by the drawbridge, across the castle moat, and moving onto the esplanade to the tune Pibroch O'Donnell Do. The pipes and drums of the 1st Battalion Scots Guards over from West Germany. The pipes and drums of the 1st Battalion, the Royal Highland Fusiliers. Just back from Berlin, the pipes and drums of the 1st Battalion, the King's Own Scottish Borderers, in their tercentenary year. The drums and pipes of the 1st Battalion, the Gordon Highlanders from Fort George at Ardashir. The pipes and drums of the Royal Air Force in Scotland. In white doublets and maple leaf tartan, the Canadian Cadet Pipes and Drums making a return visit to the tattoo. And in Fletcher tartan, the Tasmania Police Pipe Band, founded 21 years ago and paying a 3rd visit to Edinburgh. The quick march is Prince Charles's welcome to Loch Harbour. senior drum major is Drum Major John Fleming, the King's Own Scottish Borderers. And this march is called Lieutenant Colonel D.J.S. Murray, who's a well-known scholar of piping and a former assistant producer of this tattoo. As the pipes and drums reach the center, you'll see the pipers fan out to form a large figure of 8 from end to end of the arena. In the static display, you will hear Barbara's Jig, the Slow Air, Mary Darrach, the Strathspey, Cutty's Wedding, Highland Reel, and the march, Hugh McCallum. There's a fine border voice from Galashiels, and the reform march is The Steamboat. Well, the piping is always something special at Edinburgh. For 70 years, Edinburgh Castle has been the home of the Army School of Piping, endowed by the Pembroke Society as a memorial to pipers of the Great War. It trains pipe majors. The senior pipe major on parade tonight is Pipe Major Bill Rugg, the Gordon Highlanders. Now the massed pipes and drums, 145 in all, 92 pipers, 48 drummers, and 5 drum majors, countermarch and will leave the esplanade to the tune Sir Colin Campbell. The Royal Artillery Stakes. 2 teams are competing tonight in the speed and skill of weapon handling. The weapon is the 105mm light gun in service since 1975, used in the Falklands campaign. It's not light, it weighs just under 2 tons, and has a range of about 11 miles. The team on the right from the 16th Air Defence Regiment, who recruit in Strathclyde, so they have the nickname the Strathclyde Gunners. On the left, as you look at the castle, are the Highland Gunners, the 19th Field Regiment, who recruit in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland and the Kingdom of Fife. They've been stationed in Germany for the last 10 years. It's an obstacle race, as you can see, up the slope, over the ramp, through the chicanes, position, elevate, and fire a blank round. The record is held by 40th Field Regiment, not competing tonight, an incredible 58 seconds. The 3 chaps in Arctic White are the control team from 7 Commando Battery Royal Artillery.
Since we know defence got it away first, but let's just wait and see what the umpire says. Yes, he's giving it to 16th Air Defence Regiment, the Strathclyde Gunners. And the time tonight, 58 seconds, which equals the record. Well done, the Strathclyde Gunners.
The band of the Royal Regiment of Artillery from Woolwich, one of the oldest and most famous bands in the British Army, and the Royal Artillery Allenbrook Band, both in Gunners No. 1 dress, with busbies, red busby bags, and scarlet plumes, play the Slaves' Chorus from Nabucco. The senior drum major is drum major Matt Mock, and the tune is The Stars and Stripes. Stuart Mille Falche was the tune. It means 100,000 welcomes. To the regimental bands of the King's Own Scottish Borderers in trews of Leslie Town, and the Gordon Highlanders in kilts of Gordon Town, as the mass military bands now play Highlander, in which you'll hear the familiar tunes Captain Campbell and the Piper o' Dundee. Another medley of traditional Scots tunes in a march named for the range of hills to the south of Edinburgh that you can see clearly from up here in Castle Rock in daylight, the Pentland Hills.
Bands are now marching off to Mad Mitch.
Mad Mitch, of course, the nickname of a Ken Speckle Argyle of a few years back. To the jocks, and well done, the musical gunners. We're heavily indebted to the gunners this year. The band of the Junior Leaders Regiment, Royal Artillery, in Royal Horse Artillery full dress uniform, accompany a gymnastic display by a team from the Junior Leaders Regiment. The regiment was established in 1957 and is stationed at Bramcote near Nuneaton in Warwickshire. The task of the regiment is to train future senior non-commissioned officers and warrant officers for the Royal Artillery. And here are some of those picked out as potential leaders. The boys come to Bramcote aged between 16 and 17 and a half. They join an adult unit 12 months later in the United Kingdom or as part of the British Army of the Rhine. These lads came to the Junior Leaders Regiment last summer, and 1/3 of their course has been devoted to sport and outward bound activities, rock climbing, riding, canoeing. They've been training for both the band and gymnastic team in their own time, 3 times a week for 9 months, and they've been giving displays all over the country since mid-June. After the tattoo, they'll be off to their regular regiments, but for now, it's the synchronized disciplines of military music and vaulting over a high box on an esplanade which slopes 14 feet over 4 meters from west to east. Well, they make dogs do it. Why not future warrant officers? Courage, fitness, determination, dedication, and accurate judgment are all useful qualities when it comes to leaping through a fiery hoop. Or indeed, leading a great regiment into the future. Well done, the junior leaders, Royal Artillery. A reminder now of the small military displays of Highland dancing in the early years of the festival, as the Scots Guards, the Royal Highland Fusiliers, and the Gordon Highlanders each provide an Argyle broadsword to mark the occasion of the 40th tattoo here at Edinburgh. And perhaps it's a chance to pay tribute to the 3 men who have directed the tattoo since its inception. The redoubtable Brigadier Alistair MacLean, late Queen's Own Highlanders, from 1950 to 66. Brigadier Jack Sanderson, late Scots Guards, from 1967 to 75. And for the last 13 years, the present producer, Lieutenant Colonel Leslie Dow, who was the last commanding officer of the 1st Battalion, the Cameronians, Scottish Rifles, a proud regiment founded 300 years ago this year and disbanded from regular service in 1968. nimble of foot, aye, the jocks. The tunes were Loudon's Bonnie Woods, Because He Was a Bonny Lad, Piper of Drummond, and The Kilt Is My Delight.
Ladies and gentlemen, that fanfare sounded by Bugle Major McCann and the buglers of the Royal Highland Fusiliers announces someone special. And we have with us tonight a man who goes by the name of the strongest man in the world. And we proudly present the one and only Dave Gorder. A few statistics, ladies and gentlemen. He weighs 17 stone. He has a 56-inch chest. He has 21-inch biceps. He eats 3 kilos of steak per day. And his food bill is 200 pounds a week. So he's quite a man. And he is going to pull that massive weapon, tracked rapier, on that lorry. A total weight of about 27 tons. And there he is settling down in his ladder, along which he will progress with rapier coming along behind him. He's taking the strain now. And you'll see him shortly at work. And you can hear it's not an easy thing for him. It is, in fact, uphill. It doesn't look it. Well, he's just breaking for a quick pause. He does occasionally not get it away in one, ladies and gentlemen, but perhaps we can give him some support. Look up there at the castle. And there is a magic clown called Coco, the junior leaders, supporting him all the way. And there's someone else, I think, could support him. Give him help, Tina. Tina, his wife, Mrs. Tina Gorder, was a great help to him always. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's help him along. Next time, Dave, all the best. Right. Hey! Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear you. Hey! He's moving it. Hey! That's it, he's beginning to move along the ladder. Cheer him on, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. More noise. Go on, Dave. Hey! Yes, he's got it well and truly moving now. Well done, Dave, you're nearly there. Up the hill and all. Well done indeed. And they're loosening, and he's fastenings there with his harness. He's going off to take his harness off, but you'll see him again. And meanwhile, Rapier...
Dave Gorder, the gladiator, is holder of 7 world records for feats of strength. He eats a lot of steak, as you've heard. He once pulled Concorde 40 feet along the runway. He's off later this year to pull the bullet train in Japan, the Orient Express in Venice, to drag a block of stone at the pyramids, and to tow a junk in Hong Kong. I wonder if he'd go on a diet of junk food by way of preparation.
To salute the salute taker. Well done, Dave. And I think he should be joined, don't you, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, here she comes, Tina, his wife, who does a great, as I say, a great deal for him, his manager and everything else. Dave, I think that's very rude. I don't think you need to... She's worth a great deal more than that, Dave. Well done. Thank you very much, Dave and Tina.
From strength to strength, you might say. For the first time ever at an Edinburgh tattoo, together, the massed pipes and drums and the massed military band. 20 tons of musicians, 268 in all. All the musicians in the military bands, don't forget, are trained also to act as medical orderlies, while the pipers and drummers are all fully trained, experienced, competent soldiers within their battalions. This medley is called A Touch of Heather, and the tunes include There Was a Lad and A Man's a Man for All That. What a splendid sight and sound. The drummers salute. lovely O Lure, composed and arranged by Major John Allen, Director of Army Bagpipe Music. This is the Strathspey Captain Horn. The star of Abbey Buttons, and the reel was High Road to Linton. And the mass bands will regroup now to the Glendaruel Highlanders.
Ladies and gentlemen, 300 years ago, on the 18th of March, 1689, this castle was held in defiance of the monarchy of William and Mary by the Duke of Gordon supporting the Stuart cause. In order to keep peace in the city, pending the Scottish estates confirming the nation's loyalty to William and Mary, David, Earl of Leven, was ordered to raise a regiment forthwith. And you're looking now at a selection of that group. The warrant of authority had been loudly read at the Market Cross just down the hill near St. Giles Cathedral, the same idea as putting out an announcement on today's telly and radio. And the men, around 800 of them, moved on down the Royal Mile to be enlisted near the close of Holyrood Abbey. And you will shortly see some men coming out to be enlisted. Until 1751, They were known as Leven's Regiment or the Edinburgh Regiment. And certainly it was the men of Edinburgh who brought them up to strength within 2 hours of the first recruit joining. And today's King's Own Scottish Borderers, as they now are, dominate our border country. But for all that, they have the motto of Edinburgh and the device of Edinburgh Castle on their cap badge. And they have the right to march through the city with bayonets fixed and colours flying and drums beating. And all this stems from those men of Leven on the Esplanade now, who are moving off shortly to be trained.
Let us look at their history from the first recruit, who with his comrades was trained within a mere 4 months to fight so bravely against the rebel Highlanders under Bonnie Dundee at Killiecrankie. The regiment again fought the Highland rebels at Sheriff Muir, lost over 200 officers and men at Fontenoy in 1745, garrisoned Edinburgh Castle in the same year against Prince Charles Edward, and fought in the force which defeated him at Culloden. At Minden in 1759, they were one of 6 regiments totaling 5,000 men who advanced, together with the Hanoverian infantry, against large numbers of French cavalry, and won the day. Before the battle, they picked roses from the hedgerows and gardens and stuck them in their bonnets, and they do so on the 1st of August to this day.
And there, up in the battlements, you see a soldier of the day doing just that. And on the other side of the battlements, you see there an officer of 1859. And going back to where we started, a private of 1882 in Tartan for the first time. And for most of that century, the regiment served in such far-flung parts as West Indies, South Africa, India, Gibraltar, helping to build the empire.
The King's Own Scottish Borderers saw more than their share of action and casualties in the First World War. As just one example of their bravery, Piper Daniel Laidlaw won the Victoria Cross as badly wounded and under heavy fire. He played the regiment's march of the 7th Battalion, the Blue Bonnets, on the trench parapet as his comrades went over the top.
We were waiting in the trenches as patiently as we could, while our artillery gave the enemy a thorough bombarding, a task that took more than a day, I can tell you. On the Saturday morning, a day I am not likely to forget, we got the order to take the German trenches. At 6:30 in the morning, the bugles sounded the advance, and I got over the parapet with Lieutenant Young, who, I am sorry to say, has since been killed. I at once set the pipes going, and the laddies gave a cheer as they started off for the enemy's lines.
The regiment had an illustrious record in the Second World War, and since then has played its part in the handing back of the empire. It has also been in on other forms of action. Korea, where they held their ground outnumbered 10-1 and won a Victoria Cross. 3 years fighting terrorists in Malaya. And up there is a soldier dressed as they were dressed for that purpose in Malaya. A campaign in the barren and burning rocks north of Aden. Much service in Northern Ireland.
And so we come to the regiment of today, recently back from Germany and serving now in their city of Edinburgh. And here they are, a guard of today's King's Own Scottish Borderers, accompanying their regimental colour.
days of the Earl of Leven, flags or colours were carried to help soldiers recognize their formation in battle and as rallying points. And I think you'll find Leven Force are going to recognize the colour all right in a minute. The regiment now is carrying out the traditional ceremony of trooping or parading the colour through the ranks to remind everyone what it looks like.
So, a proud birthday for the King's Own Scottish Borderers in the town where they were raised by beat of drum 300 years ago. And to the birthday party came the light gun crews of the Royal Artillery, the mass band, the sword dancers, the volunteers of the old Edinburgh Regiment with their saltires, the gymnastic display team and the band of the Junior Leaders Regiment, Royal Artillery. At the front of the parade, the Guard of Honour with regimental colour found by the 1st Battalion, the King's Own Scottish Borderers, under the command of Major Grant Horsborough. And keeping it all together, in the centre of the crowded arena on the podium stands the man responsible for so much of the musical pleasure of this evening's performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tattoo's Director of Music, Major Bob Garrity, Royal Artillery.
The Soldier's Hymn. Last post, the lowering of the colours. Lights out. Mull of the mountains is the wistful air that drifts down to us from the lone piper, Lance Sergeant John Fraser, 1st Battalion Scots Guards, as he stands high above the city, up in the midnight August sky.
They celebrate 200 years in France. Tonight, we've seen 300 painted here. We've watched what's best in music, guns, and dance. We've viewed fine youngsters soaring through the air. My pageant's over. Soon ye will be gone. But when ye are gay, friendly, doon the hill, I'm here above, with Bruce and Wallace still. And whilst ye sleep, we three will guard the tune. Scotland, the brave!
And so, another hour and a bittock of Glengarrys and Busbys and feather bonnets and brave old tunes marches into the darkness to join the 40 years of Edinburgh tattoos. The first one ended with Tommy Beecham conducting the mass bands in Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture. The 40th ends in a more homely way with Auld Lang Syne. Black Bear, the traditional march of generations of Scottish soldiers back to barracks at the end of the day. And to you, wherever in the world you have been watching, greetings from Scotland's capital city and the Castle Hill up here where it all began so long ago that 40 years seems nothing at all. Good health and happiness be yours until we meet again.
tomorrow night, Edinburgh night.